Well, hi, everybody. I'm recording this on Monday evening, the night before the election. Hope for the best and plan for the worst is good, solid advice for adults at any time, although I personally would change that to work for the best and plan for the worst. Now, I personally think that President Trump is going to win big on Election Day, and like all of you, I've worked as hard as I could for that best outcome. But now let's talk about planning for the worst, so stay with me here. This is the Saturn V rocket used to put the Apollo astronauts on the moon. Now, all of this was built in order to take the command module, just this little bit, to the moon and back. Everything else is disposable. Just think of the command module as a good place to put the U.S. Constitution. Now, here's my point, so watch carefully. This is first stage separation. Think of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's America as the first stage of Apollo 11. It's dead weight. It's holding the rest of us back. We tried to save it, but we couldn't. It's getting heavier and more useless by the day. If Joe Biden wins this election, then we know that it's time to cut it loose and let it fall back into the ocean the way that California is falling into the ocean. Because no matter the election outcome, 150 million hardworking, law-abiding, patriotic citizens have continued to swim upstream against the combined efforts of big media, big tech, and the deep state. Now, considering the strength of the forces arrayed against us and how long we've had to endure them, I believe that these core American patriots are incorruptible. So even if we lose on Election Day, the number of men, women, and children who support President Trump and everything that he represents is greater than the total number of people living in France and Germany combined. So if President Trump were to lose the election on Election Day, what does that actually mean? Well, it means that it's finally time to cut loose that first stage. That means we have to stop arguing with them. We stop sending our kids to their schools. We stop doing business with them. We pull an Elon Musk on them. He's taking SpaceX, Tesla, and the future out of California and moving it to Texas. Now, just as a thought experiment only, think about this. Texas has a population of 30 million people. And just for the sake of the worst case scenario, let's say 15 million vote red and 15 million vote blue. If every conservative in America were to up and move to Texas, I'm speaking hypothetically Texans, then there would be something like 150 million conservative Texans against 15 million liberal ones, since those would also be the most law-abiding, courageous, inventive, hardworking, and most heavily armed Americans. It would only be a year or two before Texas had the largest and fastest growing economy, not in the United States, but on the planet. If all of the conservative patriots were to move into one place, in any place, it doesn't matter where, probably could even do it virtually, well, then the makers would no longer have to carry the weight of the takers. Cut it loose. They can have the protesters, we can have the police. They can have late-night comedians, we'll take the Marines. Blue America can have the celebrities, and Red America will take the engineers, which I think is a good deal because personally, I'd rather listen to an engineer sing than drive over a bridge designed by an actor. You see, no matter what happens on Election Day, America is not an address. It's not a location. It's not a landscape. It's not a political party. And it sure as hell is not an army of office seekers and bureaucrats. America is an idea. And as long as there is one person who understands that idea, then there will always be America. We can lose the government without losing the country, because this country is an idea that nothing and no one can take away. If the progressives win the election today, they'll have won the government, but the government is not the country. America has and will survive anything. There will always be an America, always. America cannot be taken away, and it can't be voted away either. All they can take is the government. Now, that is a problem, and it's a big problem, but ultimately, that's just an engineering problem. If President Trump loses this election, you and I will have a lot of work to do. But if he wins, then we will have much more and much harder work to do. One way or another, this will still be the land of the free and the home of the brave come Wednesday. Bright red from sea to shining sea, no matter how many votes can be harvested from people who live in those little blue stains on the vast red canvas. People living in a state-enforced ignorance and perpetual fear in the filthy, failing, and burning cities that they've controlled for 3 or 4 generations now. But as for the rest of us, we're going to be here one way or another.